The Trump family is not just investing in it, they're taking over the picks and shovels. You have to wake up to what is happening. Now, I'm about to tell you is just my opinion, the way I do my investments. I'm encouraging you to do your own research. You should educate yourself on what is happening. I'm going to share with you exactly what I do. You shouldn't copy what I do. You should be able to explain what you invest in to a 10-year-old before you ever invest in it. If you can't explain what you're investing in to a 10-year-old, then you should never even take the leap. That's the issue with investing. Is people buy something because somebody makes it super exciting and thinks it's, make it sound like it's going to change your life. It's not going to change anything unless you financially educate yourself on what's going on. The Trump family is not only accumulating Bitcoin at a rapid pace, they founded Bitcoin America, which is a mining company. So every single day they're accumulating it and they're mining it. Created World Liberty Financial, their own DeFi platform. It is decentralized finance. They have the fastest growing stablecoin in history. So now Trump has the fastest growing stablecoin in history through World Liberty Financial, where Trump, Barron Trump, Donald Trump Jr., and Eric Trump are owners, along with the Witkoff family. Study these families. So now they own the picks and shovels, American Bitcoin mining. They're mining Bitcoin every day. Trump Media is the 8th largest holder in the Bitcoin treasury. They're now taking over the stablecoin arena. And Trump strategically is positioning people. Bo Hines stepped down from the cabinet, went over to Tether, brought Tether into America. Howard Lutnick, who's the Commerce Secretary, owns Cantor. Cantor is a custodian for USAT Tether. America will dominate the stablecoin market. America will dominate the Bitcoin market. Russia told you exactly what I've been saying, is that they're going to use stablecoins to balance out the US treasuries because you use bonds to what? To make stablecoins stable. They buy short-term treasuries. And Cynthia Loomis wasn't hiding it. She said we're going to use Bitcoin to shrink the balance sheet in half by 2045, and that's exactly what the Parliament in Russia said. They're going to sink the U.S. debt into cryptocurrency. They're creating a sovereign wealth fund, Bitcoin strategic reserve. The system has to change. And all you have to understand is how to beat inflation, because you're not taught this in school. If you don't know, if you can't explain to me right now in the comments how inflation affects you or how interest rates affect you, that's the first step for you. Your goal is just to beat inflation. I don't care if it's gold, silver, real estate, crypto, stock market, 401k. But you think you're doing really well, making 4 to 6%, but you're not even beating inflation. You're treading water. And guess what? They're about to lower interest rates. Today is September 17, 2025. If he lowers interest rates and Trump brings these interest rates really low, or the Fed does, or he forces the Fed to, your dollar is becoming worth less. My parents bought their house in 1973 for $25,000. It's worth $430,000 now. That is not their income going up. That is the devaluation of their buying power. If they sold that house, they couldn't even buy a comparable house in the same neighborhood or a comparable house. It didn't grow. Their devaluation of their currency. We're not taught this stuff. So study inflation. Study how to beat hurdle rates. So that's how I do it. I invest in things that give me cash flow. Whether it's cash generating businesses, I'm obsessed now with dividend ETFs. When I get paid from those dividend ETFs in my businesses, I move it into bucket number 2. I de-risk out of the dividend ETFs and I de-risk into deflationary assets that beat inflation, that have fixed supplies that are opposite of the US dollar, which are inflationary. And I crush the hurdle rate. So as you store your money in the US dollar, I store mine in things like Bitcoin, XRP. My top 6 are Bitcoin, XRP, Solana, HBAR, XLM, and VeChain, and I'm heavily stacking weekly WLFI, Trump's new token. I should say WLFI's new token, his DeFi platform. That will probably end up in my top 4. So bucket number 2 is I move my cash flow into deflationary assets that have fixed supplies. It's opposite the US dollar. That feels good to me. I'm not married to these cryptos. I'm not tribal. I know that markets go up, they go down. Then number 3 is I have protection. When I profit from bucket number 2, I don't sit there and watch it go up and go down. We're going to move Bitcoin off to the side in bucket number 4, which is leverage. Okay, so let's move Bitcoin into the gold category. It's digital gold for me. But all my other cryptos, I profit off number 2, I take profits and I stuff it into cash value life insurance. Now, why would I do that? It's called life insurance, not death insurance. I use mine during my life. So I take the life insurance, and because of tax code 7702A, which was created in 1913 when the Federal Reserve was created, it's not federal nor is a reserve, is I can borrow against my cash value tax-free. And if I'm borrowing at 5, remember I taught you inflation and hurdle rates? Is if I borrow at 5 and then I can put it back into a category like a dividend, it's beating the hurdle rate of 5%, what am I doing? I'm richest man in Babylon, I'm multiplying my money. So when I create cash flow, I pay off the debt. So I'm turning $1 into 2, 2 into 3. So number 4 is leverage. Then I use leverage responsibly off my assets tax-free to do what? To buy more cash flow, to put it into deflationary assets that have fixed supplies that are going to grow over time to beat the hurdle rate. When I profit off those assets and beat the hurdle rate, I put it into protection. When I have more cash value in my protection, I beat the hurdle rate and I buy more cash flow. It's called an ecosystem. It's called richest man in Babylon, the wisdom of King Solomon. Money is currency. It wants to move. I'm not saying you have to do that. That's what I've done. Money compounds every 7 years at 10%. That's the math. Bitcoin grows 50% every year. So if there's a mathematician, do the math here. So Bitcoin grows 50% every year and money compounds every 7 years at 10%. Wouldn't that be 1 year, 6 months? So you're moving 7 years down into 1 year, 6 months to compound your money. Well, my Bitcoin, my XRP went up 200% since 2020 and 800% since 2020, XRP, Bitcoin 200%. Now it's not always going to be like that. But these moments in times, you have these huge liquidity events because we're in early into something. And what you do is you have the velocity of money. So when you get the liquidity event, you responsibly put it into things that are going to be here forever, that you can leverage and create more cash flow. Your key is cash flow. Cash is trash. Your bank is holding onto your cash and giving you 0.01%. And they're lending it out to the next person at 6% for an for a mortgage, and a 7% for an auto loan, and 25% for a credit card. And you're sitting there drowning. Money is getting worth less every single year. So when they lower interest rates today, Americans are going to celebrate because we're indoctrinated. Because we can do what? We can monetize more debt. But what does that do? It makes us poor and it makes the wealthy wealthier. Because a man's assets are another man's liabilities, and one man's liabilities and debt is another man's asset. There's no money in the system. It's one or the other. That's it. So your job is not to be running into crypto. Your job is to educate yourself at a deep level. Inflation, how do interest rates affect the US dollar, and how can you beat the hurdle rate, protect your wealth, and multiply it? Richest Man in Babylon. If you haven't read the book Richest Man in Babylon, stop this video, go read it over and over and over again before you even invest. Read Intelligent Investor over and over again. Read Secrets of the Millionaire Mind and Think and Grow Rich in Cash Flow Quadrant. Before you even invest, read those. So I love you guys.